Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I've got clips flying around all over the place of all sorts of different things, but as I know the content of quite a few of those clips, I thought I'd try and pull out a collection of what I would call the cooler growing orchids and stick them together as a subject, basically, because they do get treated differently. So we'll have a look at the clips I took as I was watering that relate to the cooler growers. Okay, these are my three Masdevallias, and in my mindset I'm thinking, why am I keeping these? They don't do that well. Well, I've only got 3 left. I did have quite a few more than that, and the 3 that are left aren't doing that bad. I mean, this is my snowbird. The new growths are clean, they're nice, and there's a fair few of them. It has actually got a bloom spike, first one in a very long time. It objected strongly to being repotted because of the time of year it was done, my fault. It had some mould on the base of the plant last time I looked. I sprayed that with a fungicide, that seems to have cleared that up. There's not a pot full of roots there, but it's sort of doing okay. That didn't get watered last time. It's not going to get watered this time, it's still wet. That's moss for you, minus roots. This is the one that's not doing quite so good. I suspect that leaf will just come off in my hand. Nope. I'll trim that leaf off because obviously that leaf's had it. Yeah, there are new roots growing in here, so this one is picking up. Again, that had to be repotted, done at the wrong time of year, and it's taken a while to recover, but it is recovering. I'll get rid of that manky leaf though. And then this one has been sitting there slowly growing, not looking too bad. But once you get down in the pot, it's doing actually pretty well. That's a flipping good root system for a Masdevallia. Needs to stay in the dark. Yeah, so apart from trimming a leaf off, the 3 Masdevallias that are hanging in there are doing just that. They can stay because they live in a place where I've got space. I mean, I've rationalised 3 plants out of the collection today. 2 Paphiopedilums are going to go, and a Phalaenopsis. I'll show you why later. But yeah, my mindset is, are these plants doing okay? If not, why not? And if I can't do anything about the why not, then why am I keeping them? That's the sort of rationale. I think that's the proper word. I'm certainly not getting rid of Restrepias because they do well. And it surprises me that they do that well. We'll have a closer look at some of them in a minute, but I haven't got to them yet. But yeah, I think the 3 Masdevallias can stay. Well, my 3 little seedling Restrepias are all showing signs of pulling on nicely now. They were repotted at the right time, just as we went into autumn and the heat dropped down. So they're showing good signs of pulling on now. And they've still got another 3, maybe 4 months before they even think about getting stressed. So they should pull on okay. This is a kiki of the... I'll show the mother plant in a minute. Rationalisation. I've got 2 plants identical. This is Coelogyne fimbriata. Both of these potfuls actually bloomed, autumn bloomer. I don't need 2, I only need 1, so that'll be a case of me choosing what I think is the best one and the other one can go. So that relatively large pot out of the way, not yet, wrong time of year, but it could go any time, quite honestly, because it's an autumn bloomer. I'm certainly not waiting for it to bloom again to pass it on, but that one can definitely go, and that's a good plant. That's a healthy plant to go. So I'm happy that somebody else can have that one. Now, as Restrepias go, both of these are what I put down as a good purchase. They were nice, healthy plants when I saw them, not in bloom, but there were pictures of what the blooms looked like. Quite honestly, on the pictures, the blooms did actually look a little more different than they actually turned out to be. And they do look almost identical, but they're not. This one has quite wide stripes, and this one has much narrower stripes. But the good thing about both of these crosses is they came from the Eric Young Foundation, and it's difficult to get plants from there. They don't come out to play very often. But they're vigorous crosses. I mean, let's take an example. If you take this leaf here, this growth has pushed up, it's already bloomed twice, and it's got 2 blooms out at the same time from the same leaf stem. It's vigorous. There are some Restrepias that only have 1 bloom per growth. Both of these are multi-bloomers per growth, so extra value for money. They got repotted at a reasonable time. Both of them have got a pot full of roots. I think this one has 2. Yep, they both got potfuls of roots. They're both having a flurry at the moment. Lots of blooms in lots of places. So I class those as a good buy on the grounds that they're floriferous. Oh, that's a big word for only a couple of coffees. The crosses are Havre des Pas, French, crossed with Gutulata, and the other one has probably got an equally French name. Yep, how will they say? Basically anything that comes out of the Eric Young Foundation that is one of their own crosses will have a French style name because, well, they're close to the coast of France. Basically they have a French influence on the island. So yeah, 2 nice Restrepias coming on nicely, those 2. Now just getting on to my Miltoniopsis, and you slipped through the net. What I was saying about the cool growers not repotting them in the spring as they head into summer, well, Miltoniopsis are one of the worst ones to stress out at that time of year. This one's got a little bit of mould around the base, and it's in this coconut stuff. And although I don't see any new roots growing, if it's going to have a chance, it needs to come out of this stuff and get in some fresh media, have a clean up around the base, and hopefully it'll settle down before the heat sets in. So that one can go to one side. I won't water it obviously if I'm going to repot it, and I'll get that one in some fresh media. That's got no tag in it, but I know which one it is on my notes because it was the last one that had blooms on it, so I can tell quite easily which one it is, and I promise I'll put a tag on it. Now, this is my only Pleurophthallis. This is Restrepiodes variety Dragonstone from memory. It's got a tag in it. As it's the only one, I don't tend to forget what it is. This is a non-performer, a non-bloomer. It's been sitting there, growing some new leaves now and again. Got repotted a while back. Chucked out a good... Oh, crikey, that's dry. They're not meant to dry out. It's probably because it hasn't long been repotted, so it dries faster. That needs a good soak. But... a friend of mine at the Bournemouth Orchid Society bought one of these, not as big as that, actually in bloom at our Christmas do. And I asked him about it, what do you do with it, and this, that and the other. He said, well, I just keep it with my Masdevallias. So obviously it works for him. So my question is, why won't you work for me? But that's where they bloom from the base of the leaf. And both of those relatively new leaves have got sheaths. Now it's done that before and still not bloomed. This one too. I'm holding out a little bit of hope this time round. Plant's healthier than the last time I saw any of those sheaths. Let's see what I can find. So like that leaf, that's an old leaf. Well, that's got the sign of a sheath, but it didn't come to anything. There are a few, yeah, there's one there, look, that's an old leaf too. The leaf's probably going to go soon, and an old sheath that came to nothing. But these look like they might have a bit of life in them this time round. We shall see. If I can get 2 or 3 blooms on that, that'll be quite a spectacle. It grows an arching bloom that, quick description, what can I think of? A miniature version of this, yeah? Very miniature version, similar colours to that, perhaps a bit darker, but a long arching spike out from the top of the leaf, and the flowers hang down like bells, but they are similar colours to that Rhynchostylus. So if I can get that thing to bloom, that'll be another first time bloomer. And apparently, according to the guy whose plant it was, this is the time of year you can expect to see some blooms on that plant. He's had his quite a bit longer than mine, even though his plant's not as big. But this now has a good root system, So it would be classed as a much healthier plant to do something with those new growths. We'll have to wait and see, as always, but God, that thing's dry. It should have been watered 2 or 3 days ago. Still, I'll get at it now. Now this one, there's only one way to deal with this. Yes, that's a spike. Definitely. And it's the only one. This is a Coelogyne cristata. And because I'm not watering as often, the gap between the last time I looked at that plant and when I picked that plant up last time, it was still wet, so I put it straight back. So I don't know whether that spike's growing or not. There's an easy way to find out, isn't there? Let's put the ruler next to it. Okay, so from the base of the curve to the top of that spike is 9 centimetres. Right, so next time I look at that plant, I can see if it's growing. Because it's difficult to tell. You know, as I say, I literally don't go near the plants that often this time of year. So, yeah, it actually got some water this time, so it missed out last time. And then next time I look at that, I'll try and remember to actually see if that spike's actually moving or not. If it does bloom, it will be the first cristata bloom I've ever had, and I will be very pleased. They are large, white, with a gold lip, gold in the lip, so they are, and fragrant. They are very worthwhile having. The plant itself, since it got potted up, has done really well. I've got some lovely big fat bulbs this year, and some of the older ones plumped up as well. So it's obviously growing better than it ever has, which might be why it's got a spike now, but still only the one. And it's not even off the... No, actually it is. The spike is actually on what is probably the largest pseudo-bulb. So, yeah, progress, hopefully. We'll see. Well, this is the no ID Zygopetalum that's been in bloom for some considerable time. Well pleased with that fact. But the fact is all 3 blooms came out from the same growth. And that growth hasn't matured properly. It still may, but it's now pushing out a new growth here, and I've just noticed it's got another one trying to start there. That's from an older bulb, and this one's off the latest growth. And this one hasn't been repotted, and it's difficult with Zygo no IDs because you're never quite sure what's in there. And if you look up their habitat, I mean, there aren't a vast quantity of species, but some come from quite cool areas and some come from quite warm areas. So what have you got when you've got a no ID hybrid? You know, because if that had its basis on cool growing zygos, I could actually get on and repot that as those new growths come out. But I have no history with this plant. Some zygos don't push their new roots out until the bulbs are nearly mature. So repotting it now, it would be totally dependent on the roots it's already got, and that's an unknown quantity because I haven't repotted it, so I could jeopardise the whole plant doing it now. So I think I'm going to take the risk with that one and wait for the better days when the plant, you know, will be starting to think to put his sunglasses on. The days will be getting longer, there'll be a bit more warmth out here, so I think I'll wait with that one. Yeah, it's going to wait. Now this Zygopetalum is Louisendorf, so it's a named hybrid, so I could backtrack and find the history of this one, if I could be bothered. And it's certainly not a bother day today. This is a strange one in as much as the 2 latest growths, one of which is this one, which is probably one of the best bulbs on the whole plant, didn't bloom. But it's difficult to tell. Did that spike come out from the back of that bulb or the front of that bulb? It's difficult to tell, but the fact that there's a spike there too, I think both of those spikes, which were there when I got it, came from this bulb, which is far from mature and has stopped growing. And yet this bulb's pushed on really well and has got this growing out at the base, which is highly likely to be a new growth rather than a spike. The one that's already bloomed has got that thing sticking out the base, which is not moving. That's been there some time and hasn't moved, so that may have just stalled. And the other new growth around this side which also hasn't bloomed, is reasonably mature, not a bad size, but that also has a nice new growth coming out. So I'm not quite sure what this one's up to, but what I do know is that it's not dead, and it doesn't look like it's dying. It doesn't look bad at all. I'm going to have to take the bull by the horns at some point and clean all my leaves off. There's no way I'm spraying the plants at this time of year with these temperatures. I keep my plants bone dry. They are never subjected to any moisture whatsoever. I only water the pot, and then this time of year only if it's necessary. I don't water for the sake of it. Yeah, so not quite sure what that one's up to. In my other zygo, I do have 3 living zygos. This is a record for me. This one's new growth has pushed on quite nicely, given that it's winter time. Relatively new acquisition. I got this let me think, back in the summer anyway, so I haven't had it long. New growth is pushing on well. Not quite sure what's going on in the pot, but it was repotted, so I don't need to know. Basically it's in new media. If it's going to grow, it's going to grow. It didn't have a bad root system. This is Arthur Ellie, and it's the Stonehurst variety. It actually got an awarded plant. Not this particular one, I mean the variety. And this is actually one of the parents of the Louisendorf that we've just looked at. But yeah, 3 living zygos that seem to be pushing on is a bit of a record for me. Let's just try and keep it that way. While I'm on the subject of this zygo, there's some dieback on a couple of the oldest leaves. Now, most cases when a leaf dies, it gets a very uniform yellow over the whole leaf. So when you get only part of a leaf looking wrong, there may be an inherent problem. But basically I'm just going to trim those leaves. I always keep my scissors in there because I often cut a flower spike, trim a leaf, you know, do things like that as I'm watering, and I'm not prepared to use my scissors on one plant, even if it's just to trim a spike off and then go and make a cut on another plant. Yeah, I don't take the risk, so I always keep my scissors soaking like that. And in between each cut, put the scissors back in there. Minimise any chance of spreading stuff. You know, it's us that do most of that spreading. So, yeah. I'll give this a trim and we'll have a look. Now, these are not my tips. They were tips given to me, but they make sense to me. Yeah, when you're taking a leaf off that's got a damaged part, make sure you get behind the damage. Yeah, don't try and keep too much of the leaf. And then if there is a problem on the leaf, in theory, you've taken it out. And the strange shape on there is pure aesthetics. It's nothing more than that. You know, if you chop a leaf off like that, it does look very, very chopped. Whereas if you just turn it into a point, it doesn't look quite so bad. And you've still done the job. You've still taken off the unsightly part of the leaf. And it just makes what's left look a little nicer. Not essential. It's not going to do anything for the plant. It just looks a little bit better. Makes the leaves a bit more in keeping with the others which are pointed. So, yeah. Okay, that was a look around some of the cooler growers that I keep, and I know some people grow Zygopetalums quite a bit warmer than perhaps I do, but I've found that the ones I've had in the past were in warmer places and higher light levels, and they are no longer with me. So I'm trying it this way and they seem to be doing better. I've still got to go through my bulbophyllums because these are anything from hot growers to cool growers, and there are species in amongst these as well as hybrids, and so far I've done no homework on their temperature or light. All I know is that they like to stay moist. That's the only bit of help I've sort of had. But yeah, I mean, in theory, some of my bulbophyllums may be cool growers, but at the moment they're all getting treated the same as average. So anyway, something a bit different, and I'll put some more of the clips together in the next video. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time.